light microscope is one of the most important tools you'll have at your disposal for learning in this course, so I think it's worth a little bit of time to learn how to use it properly. This can allow you to avoid eye strain in the long run and to avoid getting headaches. The most important thing to start with is to just become familiar with the general parts in the microscope. You can see eyepiece, the objective lenses, the condenser lens, of course the mechanical stage, the power switch, and the fine focus and coarse focus control knobs on the microscope. Your microscope is a delicate and fairly expensive piece of equipment, so handle it carefully. If you're going to move it around, carry it with both hands, and don't drag it across the bench. That vibration will throw the optical elements out of alignment, so pick it up if you're going to move it from one side of the bench to the other. When you turn your microscope power on, have the voltage set at the lowest level. You don't want to blast your eyes out with light when you look through the microscope, and you can kind of bring the light intensity up to a level that's comfortable to look at. A word about the condenser lens that's underneath the microscope stage. The condenser functions to collect and focus the light, and generally we want to have it in the fully upright position to take advantage of the optics in the microscope. There is an iris diaphragm on the condenser which acts like the f-stop rings on a camera, and it will let a little more or a little bit less light in depending on needs. With your objective lenses, you always use the low power first, and you're going to hear in this course to look at objects with low power as much as possible because you see more that way. But use your low power objectives to find your image and begin to focus on the image, and then you can bring the objectives up to a higher power as you need them. Now, as you go from a low power to a high power, you really only need to use fine focus. Obviously, you may use the coarse focus on the lowest power to find your object plane, but these microscopes are pretty much parafocal, which means as you go from one objective to the other, not only is your image pretty much still centered in the field, but you should only have to use fine focus when you move from one objective to the other. So how do we get started using the microscope? As we already said, turn the power on with the lowest voltage setting possible so you don't hurt your eyes with a lot of light. Put your glass slide on the stage and find your object plane under the lowest power. It'll be either 4x or 10x, and you'll use the coarse focus knob to do this. And then you'll increase to 20x or 40x and only need to focus with the fine focus knob. Now, a word about oil immersion objectives. All of your microscopes have oil immersion objectives. You will rarely, if ever, have to use the oil immersion objective in this course. If you've not used microscopes before, please ask one of the instructors for help the first time you use your oil immersion lens. Our microscopes are binocular microscopes, which obviously means you can use both eyes to look at slides. Now, what you need to do is move your eyepieces either closer together or further apart so that you're really seeing only one image when you're looking through the microscope. Now, if you're like me and you wear eyeglasses, I usually take my eyeglasses off when I use the microscope, although some people prefer to leave their glasses on. You know that everyone's pupils may be spaced a little bit differently. These microscopes have a scale near the oculars that measure interpupillary distance. You can note your interpupillary distance so that if you move from one microscope to another, you can immediately set the ocular to that interpupillary distance and you'll be ready to look with both of your eyes. The microscopes also allow you the ability to make diopter adjustments. So if you see with different strengths from either eye, you can compensate for that. And it's a little bit complicated to make this adjustment, but let me try to walk you through it. Let's assume you've adjusted the interpupillary distance on your microscope so that you're seeing one image. You'll note the scale number for your interpupillary distance. For me, it's about 62. On each of the ocular lenses, there are scales. What I do is set one of those ocular lenses to my interpupillary distance. So if mine is 62, what I would do is set my left ocular to 62, block my left eye, look into the microscope just with my right eye, and get a very sharp focus with the fine focus control knob. Then what I would do is block my right eye and look through the left ocular this point I would not use the fine focus control, rather I would use the adjustment on the ocular lens, that little knurled knob on the ocular lens, to bring the image into focus. When I have a sharp image then, looking through with both eyes, I will have a fairly sharp image and I will have the oculars adjusted for if my eyes see at different strengths. So take some time to learn to use your microscope properly. Make all the appropriate settings, avoid eye strain, try to keep your eyes focused at infinity. If you feel yourself getting a little bit of eye strain, look away from your microscope, focus at some distant object to keep your eyes at infinity. Remember also that a microscope magnifies images, but as it magnifies images, it's also going to magnify motion. So you need to learn to not concentrate on the slide as you're moving your stage around. Otherwise, you're going to get a lot of motion, and that might tend to give you eye strain. So if you keep your eyes focused at infinity, keep relaxed, learn to use the microscope properly, make all of the settings that you need to make. You shouldn't have too much trouble with your microscope. As I said, it's one of the most important tools you'll have at your disposal for learning in the course. If you have any trouble using the scope, please don't hesitate to talk to any one of the instructors in the course.